stress is not the problem. It is a signal, my friends. Oh, stress is a big topic, a hot topic that we have been wanting to tap into around here more and more and more. And although we do, this one is just immediately and only about the idea of stress. And so many of us use stress as just kind of a stressor. We let it take over our minds and our bodies and all the things. And instead of reframing it, we call it a problem, we call it scary and all the things, but really it's a signal. So, hey, everybody, it is Megan Holly, and this is the Magic Made podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I really hope that you're not in a stressed state right now. But if you are, hopefully by the end of this, you'll be feeling a little bit more lax and a little bit more chill and just feeling good in maybe your mindset around it, really, more than anything, because stress is something that's never going to go away. In fact, it's good for us, right? We need to have stress in life because it motivates us a lot of times. It teaches us things. And like I said, to start the episode off, it is a signal of maybe misalignment or misdirection or just something that's not working, but maybe we keep putting ourselves in the same position, doing the same thing, thinking the same way. You get my drift, right? Just going down a road that is not helpful. And so today we're going to tap into that. And what I really want is, I think the biggest thing that I want us to tap into is the idea that we're not broken, right? Our bodies aren't broken, our minds aren't broken when we are on maybe a repeat stress loop. We are not broken because we are feeling stressed. And I've been there before where I have been beating myself up really over being stressed. Like, why am I like this? Why do I let everything get to me? Why? And so if you resonate with that, we are kindred spirits. However, now that I've started working on my relationship with what stress really is and what it means and how it affects me, I can look at it differently. It's not the why. It's the, okay, what is it telling me? Thank you for this information. Now I have the power to do something differently with it. And when stress doesn't self-right itself, that's the sign. You know what I mean? Because acute stress, which is small doses, minimal moments, it just comes and goes because of a short little stint of a situation, a conversation, or whatever. When it doesn't flow in and out quickly and it starts stacking is when we become more mindful of it. And when we start to be like, ooh. And so often, that's the exact sound, ooh. When we become mindful of that happening is when we can start to keep it more in acute land, and not acute land, but an acute stress. Yes. And not let it just be this whole culmination of self-doubt, self-worth, the physical feelings of being stressed, which are not fun for anybody involved. All these things is when we can keep that at bay. And so if we reframe stress from its being protection, not sabotage, is when we can really start to see the shifts. It's a good thing. It's protecting us. Again, stress is normal in life. And if we drop the idea that it's always going to feel good and perfect, and if it feels easy, well, people have two different thoughts about the feeling of feeling easy. Some people feel like, oh, it's easy and this is good. That means everything's a-okay. But have you ever been in a season where it's felt like that and you've just been like, I'm nowhere near feeling how I want to? Like, things are easy, but I also feel like I'm unfulfilled. Also, some people have that other shoe dropping side of things. It's so easy, something's about to happen. That is not a good mindset to be in, because you're like walking through on eggshells. You're waiting, you're calling in that energy. In fact, as the way I look at it, you're kind of just saying you're looking for mischievous energy. And what are you going to get if you do that? Just that. And if it's not mischievously fun energy, we can call in some things that we don't want to see. We can act differently because we're kind of, right? We're working into that side of our brains. We're letting those notions continue on. And again, like the stress kind of ramping up, so can those thoughts that lead to, well, more stress, more, choices that may move us into a way, a space, a situation that do not serve us. So we have to identify that difference of, hey, it's protecting me. What is it trying to tell me? What can I learn from it? And how do I move forward in a positive way that suits what I'm looking for on the other side of this? What is the outcome? That's important. The other thing we need to, kind of keep weighing out at any given time, is this acute or is this chronic, right? Again, going into that. If it's chronic and it's continuously happening over and over again, we're not listening to those protection moments. We're not listening to ourselves. We're not listening to the cues from people around us, maybe, right? We're letting it become chronic because we're subjecting ourselves to the same thing over and over again without doing something different. And we know that nothing good can come of that. It just doesn't. And especially in a negative way. So when we start identifying this has become more chronic, it is not flowing, it is not coming, bursting, and I'm moving on. It is becoming chronic. What are the things that are playing into that? What am I doing? How am I speaking through it? Who am I bringing into these situations or taking out of these situations? Right? The who, what, when, where, why of it all, of the stresses. So when we ignore these signals and these symbols, sometimes there's symbolic little moments that might pop up, we are giving allowance to the stress to become louder and louder and louder. It's kind of like if you had a stomach ache from eating something spicy on Friday, and when you woke up on Saturday, it was still there, but you're like, you know what? I'm going to go eat that spicy thing again. Right? You're building on that. More than likely, you're going to keep adding fuel to the fire, and it's just going to keep condensing on itself. Now, it's not to say you can never have spicy food again. It just didn't sit with you that one day. But if you just keep compounding it, not much good can come of it. If you give yourself some chill, for me, I have digestive enzymes that I'll take when I have any sort of upset and get myself kind of back to status quo. They work really wonderfully. And then, hey, in a couple days, I can have that spicy thing again. Like, let me listen to my body, right? So if we're not listening to it, the stress is going to compound, just like any other physical things in our bodies are going to potentially compound as well. Misaligned energy and unprocessed emotions can also play into this as well. So when we are continuously putting ourselves into maybe situations or environments or around people that are just so, and this is not saying that we need to be in rooms with people that only agree with everything that we say. In fact, that's the last room I want to be in. I want people to challenge me, to think differently, to educate me, all of the things. But there's a difference of that and being completely misaligned, where the values are completely askew, but yet you continue injecting yourself into it and feeling less than because of it, or, whatever, degraded because of it. Who knows what could come of it? So we have that. And then a lot of times those unprocessed emotions continue to kind of come into play as well, because when we are feeling the negative feelings of stress, sometimes we're not processing things, or we're not giving ourselves the full potential to process things because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. We don't want to create any problems or chaos. So we'll just we'll just swallow down that feeling. And we all know that that is not something that feels really, really great. And B, over time is going to add to this chronic buildup of stress and so many other things. Being stepped on, in a relationship, maybe just feeling unfulfilled in a career or a project. All of these things can come of that. Some of the reasons why so many of us are stressed is this overstimulation and consumption that we have in this world. We all know it to be true. We all experience it on some sort of level in some sort of regular basis. Now, we have the authority and the power within ourselves to shift that and change that as needed. However, we don't always do such things. For me, yes, there's so many different ways and places we can consume and overconsume and create kind of a constant stimulation, right? Our phones, social media. These are the things that we all know to be true. But what are we doing about it, right? If you were feeling fatigued by something, if you were feeling overwhelmed by something, take a step back from it. Maybe it's in a relationship or a conversation that keeps happening, but nothing kind of shifting happens out of it on the other side. That's exhausting, right? You're over consuming the same sentiment and conversation over and over again with no or little difference in results. That in itself can be a huge stress and an uncomfortable place to be. So, what do we do when we identify these things that are kind of over consuming our brains, our energy, our time, a lot of times too, right? And so, we have to bring the overstimulation and the consumption loop down. If you are feeling in a stressed state right now, I'm closing my eyes if you're watching on YouTube. And if you feel called to, close your eyes. I'm going to open them again so I can continue having eye contact with you. But close your eyes and have a moment. What and where am I overstimulated in? Where, who, or how am I over consuming? Take a moment with that. Take a moment and think the who, what, when, where, why now of overconsumption, of overstimulation, of just too much of the things that aren't a good too much. Take a deep breath into that. And if you feel called to, give it some more energy as we go through this episode and then after, or jot it down so that you don't let it just go back to where it was in the back of your brain and let it just keep compounding. Because we have the power to shift that immediately. I am very present on my socials, but I have a very good boundary. When I need a moment or a couple of days off, I don't feel the need to necessarily explain myself over and over and over again. Like, oh my gosh, sorry guys. Oh my gosh, sorry guys. Oh my gosh, sorry guys. I might say, oh my God, I've missed you. Or, I have that real connection with my community. And yes, but I'm not going to over apologize to a point where it's uncomfortable and unnecessary. Right. So I have a good relationship with that ebb and flow that sometimes happens in something that I can easily overconsume and have overconsumed in times. Right now, I have a good balance of it, but it's not always the case. So, thinking through things that are maybe detrimental in this moment for you right now and taking away precious time or energy or resources. When we are in stressed out situations and mindsets, we have this tendency to have a pressure on us to perform more, perform differently, perform better. Well, if I do this differently or I show up in the way that I know that they need me to or they want me to, then it will feel different. I will feel less pressure. I won't feel so stressed. They won't feel so stressed. So now we're overperforming on top of overconsuming, overstimulating, all of the things, and we're overperforming. And raise your hand if you have been the person who felt like you needed to prove yourself to somebody or something. So you did the things, you went through the whatever the storyline is that was in your head about this person or their needs or what you thought your needs were within that, and you overperformed or brought out a side of you too often that didn't feel good, authentic, or right. If you're in an overperforming place or space with anything or anyone, this is really important to take a little moment to listen. Going back to that listening, it's telling us something. If you're feeling exhausted by that, it's for a reason. It's because it's not authentic to who you are and it's not serving you. And in turn, it's probably really not serving the people that you think it might be or the community that is within your, space or your family member who you think is expecting something just so. It's not serving them either. Maybe you're even enabling something or someone through that overperformance and letting that stress of that whole world take over. We can't have that, especially long term, because it's just chipping away at who we are. And then we're going to become less and less and less ourselves and healthy within ourselves, right? Oh, and then lastly, one more over thing is the overcommitting and people pleasing. Yeah. And as a recovering overcommitter and people pleaser and perfectionist, let's add that one in, I can safely say that when you start to make more boundaries around that, your stresses become less. Now, you might have a heightened kind of conflict of moment in your stress that goes, oh, but what if they don't like me anymore if I don't do the thing? Or what happens when I, do that or don't do that or say this? And so you might have a little quick acute inflection of stress because of that. But when you learn that that's just your Regina, your mind gremlin saying, but wait, they won't like you. You'll be kicked off the island. One year on vacation, we were joking, like if anybody like in my family was like acting up or like, we're voting you off the island, like, let's go, get out of here. And we're a very silly, jokey family. So obviously we didn't mean it. People, were just being silly, but you're out of here. What are you doing? Get out. So you think you're going to get voted off the island and just completely forgotten about because you have chosen what is best for you, what depletes your stress, which is a good thing. Depleting doesn't sound good in a lot of ways, but it is good when it's depleting of stress. When you can start to learn what you really need or want in life or in that conversation or out of this situation. And the more you do it, the less the fiery thoughts of stress will come up and really eat at you. I promise. It gets better. So the shift is regulating ourselves is much better than anything else, right? We can eliminate stressors. We can eliminate things, which sometimes is important to do, but more important is regulating ourselves because just as soon as we get rid of that job that was so overly stressful or that person that brought on so much stress, a new kind of player enters the chat, if you will, and you're going to have to be up against that, especially if we're not learning our lessons. The same people, the same personalities, the same pressers are going to come in. So if we are only eliminating, we are only going half the way, right? It's like knowing you have to do the mile to get to where you're going, but you only go halfway and think, well, they'll meet me halfway or something, right? That sounds about right. We're rationalizing things that we don't even know to be true. And so if we're only eliminating, which it's important to some extent, but we also need to regulate this nervous system in knowing that we're safe in making these choices and having these discussions and doing the things, regulating our own expectations of self and others, regulating just how much energy output we take in and put out, regulating our consumption loops, regulating our release, which we talked about in a couple episodes ago, releasing our energy, our stagnancy, our stress, just letting go and using movement and joy and all of that to do that. So, are you regulating yourself to a more full capacity, or are you kind of just dumbing down what needs to happen in order to move through stress in a more healthy, kind of lighthearted way, right? Stress isn't fun or funny, but can you find a way to do it in a way that really serves you and feels more light, right? It has a lightness to it because you know that you're in the driver's seat of that mile down the road. You are in the driver's seat. So awareness moves into our choice, moves into our action. And then once we're in that beautiful kind of movement, that momentum of awareness, choice, action, we can find regulation in self through that, right? And if we are taking notes and doing more and more and more of what is feeling good on this path, then we're going to see this happen in a more swift manner. We're going to see it in a vein that other people accept more swiftly and quickly about you, the situation, your relationship with them, all of the things. It goes without saying in this, stress can come from that expectation. So you have the permission to say no or not right now, or maybe in 3 weeks or whatever it might need to be. You have the permission to slow down and say, I need this right now in this season, and I'm going to do it by doing X, Y, and Z. We cannot just compound that stress by not giving permission to slow down and quiet ourselves to understand better where we're going and what we need. And I've spent a lot of January, February shifting in ways that I didn't really see coming necessarily. And they're beautiful things, don't get me wrong, but it's shifted my workload, it's shifted my thoughts on what the next handful of months will look like, and all of it's going to be wonderful and beautiful, but I have to get quiet so that I don't let the stress of some shifts and changes take over me, because then I won't do any of it well. And it's already, when you're learning new things or doing different things or going in a slightly different direction or having different conversations, it's already hard enough. So we cannot let that happen at such a fast pace that we can't take a moment to slow down and recognize what we really need in it. Right now, what I need is balance and listening to myself and really making choices that help me do that, whether it's with my time, whether it's with what I say yes and no to, like all the things, you know what I mean? And so you can't be strong for too long without some support, my friend. You can't be strong for too long without some support. It's just not possible. And I know I'm the person that's like lugging the lugging the chair or the piece of furniture around the house to whatever, reorganize something. And my husband's like, "You need help?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine." And meanwhile, I'm literally hurting myself. Like, why? Why? If there is support there, or we can find support differently, or ask, or shift, or find a tool in that whole situation, I could find furniture movers, little slider things to go underneath it. Why make things harder? Because strong for too long is just a bad, bad recipe when you don't have support. We are strong. We don't need to prove it. We all have a strong, wild spirit within us. I know we do. If you're in my community, I know that you are strong willed in some way, shape, or form. You have got strong values and missions in something in your life or business. I know that to be true, but you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be one with self. I have quite a few friends in my life and I love them dearly, but just like me, they're that person that will just do the thing without asking for help. And if you are listening and that's you as well, whether you're the friend I'm talking to or somebody else in the community that is resonating with that, there's no point. Lighter hands make less work. More ideas and brainstorming create synergy and movement and ideas that would have not come if you didn't bounce and throw things at the wall with each other, with other people. How beautiful is that? I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. And perfectionism and picking and picking and picking at something or someone or a situation or a project or whatever is never going to be the answer. Because we're just going to perfectionize to a point where we either halt ourselves, elongate and do more work than we needed to, or maybe even stifle what could have came from it, right? I know there's been times when I've picked apart something and been like, wait, I'm not going to put it out. I'm not going to put it out. I'm going to wait because I think, oh, wait, this font's not right. Or I should say this word or the color or whatever. Like all the I've done it. I've done it. But then like I put it out there and then like 3 days later when I let myself be more in flow for something else, not even that thing, a better thought and answer comes from it. But now it's too late. That's out. But if I would have gave myself the space to just breathe or maybe ask for insider perspective, maybe that thought would have came sooner and I would have executed it and been even more elated with the final product. So take that and let that swirl around in your brain because we think, oh, it's got to be just so until we get the better idea after the fact, right? And so again, stress lives in our bodies. I don't know that I can, it's like a challenge for me to go a whole episode without talking about moving our energy, not even just our bodies, more importantly, our energy. Yes, our bodies need to move, our blood needs to pump, our heart needs to be challenged, all these things, but it's our energy, right? So stress lives in our bodies. If you have chronic pain in your body, some of it can be connected to your habits that are stacked up against you, not good habit stacking, stacked up against you because of poor choices that you're making for your body. You're not sleeping well, you're sleeping weird. I know when I'm really stressed, this is one of my signals is I sleep like really contorted or tight, or I like bite the side of my tongue when I'm sleeping and I wake up and my tongue is so sore. It hurts. Anybody else have this? You could see the teeth marks on the side of my tongue. And I've researched on it and all the things, and I've got to let go of that habit because it's not, well, it just hurts and it's uncomfortable. Everything in me is so tense and painful when I wake up after I should be feeling at least halfway decent, you know? And so what are our bodies doing? Are we releasing the stress or are we compounding it and just saying, well, this chronic pain is just because of this or old age or that? But what if it was because we're not allowing some of it to release? We're not giving ourselves better sleeping habits. We're not stretching our bodies as good. We're not giving enough water. Like all these things that we know to be so simple and so true. But when we're in really stressed out states, we make choices that don't always serve us more and more and more and more. And we go down this rabbit hole. And then it's easy to be like, well, this is just part of it. This is how it feels. This is what it feels like to be 40, or this is what it feels like to be, a busy human. Like, no, it doesn't have to feel that way. I promise you that. So getting in that release, getting in that movement, breath resets when we're thinking about the things that we need to do differently, literally 1 to 2 minutes of any of this is all that we need to at least have some sort of a momentum. Yeah. And then building it in, like an episode when I was talking about our confidence portals. If you didn't listen to that one, pop back over. These kind of go good and hand in hand in this, because our confidence portals can be ways for us to let go of this stress. One, and two, can be a way for us to get clarity on where to take ourselves to move through the stress. So it's like a double whammy in the best way possible. So definitely find your confidence portals, find that release, and start really making sense in your brain on the things that are becoming chronic stressors and what can be done differently. Because I promise you, even if you're fighting me right now and we're like in a little like hand-to-hand combat and you're like, no, but this is just how it is. This is how this person and I interact. This is how our family life is operating right now. It's just a chaotic season, but there can always be calm in chaos. I promise you that. I know this to be true. So some of the things that I love talking about that are helpful in stressful situations and stressful seasons, in, just the chronicness that can happen within it, is resetting ourselves with our electronics, our technology, even our TV. Sometimes we think, oh, well, I haven't been on my phone for a while, but I've just binge watched something for, 5 days, which I'm not knocking. I get in those modes, but if we're in a stressed out situation, we might need to step away from that, have some clarity, get out into fresh air, go, do something like hands-on, you know what I mean? Just something. Name the feelings that you're actually having, not just I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed, I'm so busy. That's another word too. Like, are you productive? Or are you busy? If I'm just busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. What's the beauty of any of that? So naming the feelings beyond those kind of catch-all words that we use that aren't so helpful. Get more nitty-gritty with it. Brain dumps are my favorite things to do ever. It's why I sleep better these days. It's why I feel like I can bounce back and forth between the different commitments and hats that I have on better than I used to, because of brain dumping and getting stuff out. Taking a look at my week ahead and having a snapshot every Sunday at my week. And then every night I look at the next day and I get like a moment of, okay, these are the things that I have. These are the times that I have. I put on alarms. I brain dump any thoughts that I'm like, oh, I don't want to forget that. But if I go to bed and I wake up tomorrow, it will be gone. So I brain dump those types of things, just brain dumping whatever you need to get out of your brain. Literally. So simple and so easy. And then one boundary a day. If you identify that maybe there's 3 things, let's just say 3 or 4 things that could be helpful in a situation, a conversation, or whatever, just start making small little choices of boundaries each day towards that, and just hold yourself accountable for that for a little bit until you get to be second nature with it, and then add on another one, and then add on another one. And then before you know it, you feel less stressed in that moment, in that situation, in that work environment. And how beautiful is that? Just because you started sending some boundaries out and letting them land before just expecting yourself to do more and more and more. So to close out, um, I want you to remember that you are allowed to feel better and lighter. Holding on to the heaviness is not a badge of honor. Um, we all have heaviness in life and loss and all the things, and holding on to that for dear life is not a badge of honor. The woe is me is only going to get us all so far. And so we need to honor our hard feelings and our hard seasons. Yes, please let that be the case. That's not what I'm saying here, but holding it into such just kind of gritty, just, this is all the only part of me, that everything, this is everything that I am, is when it gets a little dangerous and where we see that stress become chronic and dangerous, literally. So can't say it enough on that part. You are allowed to feel better. You are allowed to feel a little bit of lightness, even in a hard moment. You are doing better than you think with that. So just take a breath, take a deep breath in right now. Take a moment of just silence for the stressors that are within you right now. Honor them and say thank you for the signals, but I'm going to make some choices differently right now. And I need you to be on my side. Yeah. Like literally tell your stress that. Sounds silly, but it's a start, right? Because our brains are the things that are going to start the process off. Brains are going to start thinking, actions come out of our mouths or our hands or whatever, and that's literally how it begins. So, if you feel called to come back to this episode, if life is feeling loud or if you're like I'm hell bent on moving through some of this differently, finally ready to let go of some of it, come back to this episode, come chat with me, share this with somebody that you know that might be in a hard season that you're like, you know what, this is something that they need to hear and I want them to know that they are safe and they are sacred in this space and that they don't have to hold on to this. I'm with them. I'm here. We're all here together in this. And so I appreciate everything and you being here and working through all of these things together because I'm doing the work and together we can see a different, lighter, brighter world. If you haven't yet, make sure that you like and subscribe and follow wherever you are listening or watching. And come hang out on YouTube if you're not, if you're listening and you haven't popped over at least for a couple episodes on YouTube. I would love to see you there. Me and Leroy, I haven't given him a shout out in a couple episodes, so he's probably sad. So me and Leroy would love to see you. So come hang out and look around. Look around for your magic. And just like we are seeking out magic in this world, we're also seeking out the stress and the signals of our bodies and our minds and making sure that we're staying intact with that and listening so it doesn't get so loud that we're being just bombarded by it. So we're looking for our stress signals this week. We're looking, like always, for our magic, for our sunbeams, for our rainbows, for our beautiful, just beauty in the world. I know it's warming up in a lot of places. I was just listening to somebody, they were talking about that it was 95. And I was like, what? Because on that day it was not 95 here in the Chicago area. So I was like, oh man, but I know it's warming up a little bit everywhere. So go out and look for the magic and release some stress in nature because honestly, I think we all can agree that no matter what type of nature is your favorite, there's something beautiful about it that releases something out of us. So go find it and bring it back to the community and tag me and let us all share in this beautiful moment that you found for yourself. And I will see you next time.